Chapter 11 Unanimous Agreement. Not to be pessimistic, but New Mexico was by far, maybe not the worst day of the walk, but definitely had a unique negative feel to it. It brought a lot of boredom, frustration, loneliness, and voices in my head. Yep, you read that right. When I first crossed into New Mexico, I was in the middle of a high-end suburban area. In fact, I was stopped on the road I was walking on when I came across a gate with a security guard sitting nearby. I explained I was just passing through, but was told I'd have to take an alternative route. No big deal. It only added a couple of miles. I made a wide detour around the fancy neighborhood and took a road down to New Mexico State Road 9. State Road 9 was one of the most memorable highways of the entire walk. Besides Route 80, of course. 9 quite literally hugs the Mexico and U.S. border, sitting only a couple miles north of the border wall. A drive down this road and you'll pass more U.S. Border Patrol cars than regular vehicles passing through. A couple Border Patrol officers slowed down to get a better look at me, but none ended up asking any questions. This 70-mile stretch would become one of the most stressful couple of days, after I had my first flat tire only a mile or two into the highway. There was little to no shoulder on this road, so every time a car passed by, I'd have to push my cart into the grass. Problem was, the goathead thorns continued to litter this area past Texas. I can recall hundreds of grass burrs puncturing my tires, mostly the left rear, as that one made the most contact with the grass. After so many punctures, even my heavy-duty pre-slimed tubes didn't stand a chance. Any attempt at patching existing holes became useless, as several more would be created in a matter of minutes. In a couple days, I went through the remainder of my spare inner tubes. This area also threw a new curveball at me. I had been fortunate enough at this point to have a cell signal for the majority of my days, but on this particular stretch, I went the better part of 2 days without any cell signal. Spending around 12 hours a day walking, usually my only means of keeping myself from getting unbelievably bored was listening to music, podcasts, or making phone calls. Every cross-country trekker has their own opinion on how disconnected one should be while walking, but I felt no need to impose restrictions on how I used my phone. Now, without any connection to the outside world, I was forced to walk the better part of 70 miles with nothing more than my own thoughts. While uncomfortable, these are the parts of the trip that I take the most pride in. It's hard to be alone and without distraction, but that's partially what this trip was supposed to be about. Because of the issues with thorns, rather than continue west on State Road 9, I made my way up north and slightly west to the town of Deming, New Mexico. While I wouldn't call Deming the life of the party, it was the most city I would see in New Mexico. They had a Walmart, which I needed to buy more inner tubes. I hadn't been to a Walmart in several days, so I certainly took my time shopping around, getting the things I needed, and loading up on food. Since I was staying in a hotel, I brought back a few frozen meals to pop in the microwave, a favorite occasion whenever possible. After Deming, I would spend the next several days walking on highways with little more to see than flat land with a few mountains here and there. To save time, I took a shortcut, 15 or so miles of dirt road. It was a bit of a gamble, as I had no idea whether certain sections might be fenced off. The few locals I did have short conversations with the previous day, however, had assured me that I'd be able to use that road to cut across heading west. That road was definitely one of the most desolate stretches of the journey. There really wasn't anyone out there. A couple trucks passed me, but they were just going out to do some work on a bridge or something. So about the voices in my head. I remember after being on that road for a couple hours, I heard someone yell at me, "Turn around, you can't come this way." My head instantly jerked up. No one. Obviously, I was probably just tired, going crazy from being alone so long, dehydrated, or all the above. A relative did warn me, though, that there's a lot of evil spirits out in the New Mexican deserts. I wouldn't consider myself a believer in any kind of supernatural, but there's a part of me that wants to believe the whole evil spirits thing, having experienced the New Mexican desert. The atmosphere felt dark and heavy, a feeling I didn't get at all going through Arizona or California. Maybe it was just my undeniably negative attitude towards New Mexico, but there was without a doubt something off about those desolate areas that I walked through. I ended up making it through that stretch all right, though, and I don't think anything possessed me. The turning point for me in New Mexico was my last night there. I was walking, not sure of where I was going to sleep that night, when I came across the Continental Divide Trail on my map. Turns out I'd been walking right across it, leaving me a couple sections of trail that I could hop on. This was super exciting. I wouldn't need to worry about staying hidden, as the only other people I'd run into would be hikers, and I'd be able to make a fire to keep warm. Or at least I hoped I'd be able to make one. I hadn't ever actually built my own campfire, though on a previous film shoot that I had done, a man on set taught me how to set up a fire while we were building one for that scene. I did successfully build a small campfire, which I heated up some of my dinner over. A bad storm was on its way, so I spent some time hanging a tarp over my tent. Despite my best efforts, the rain came in heavy, and some of it made its way into my tent, resulting in a cold and damp night. On the bright side, this was one of my last times dealing with rain. My last day in New Mexico was enjoyable as well. Since I was now on US Route 70, I was walking on the Southern Tier bicycle route. I'm not super familiar with the logistics of cross-country bicycle trips, so I wasn't sure if I'd run into cyclists or not. I did end up walking by quite a few, at least 10 throughout this last stretch of New Mexico and Arizona.